The Lismore Lantern Parade is an annual event which is held around the winter solstice, and the lanterns are variously little lanterns with candles in them to really big lanterns that are lit with 12-volt lighting systems. The parade also has performers and dancers and bands. It has grown this year that we had about 2,300 people in the actual parade. We chose the winter solstice as the time for having it. Again, using the metaphor of light, the winter solstice is the longest night of the year, and traditionally that heralded more good times coming. It had an optimism about it. It was a time when, before refrigerators and supermarkets, when you knew that the sun was returning and that the days were going to get longer and the crops were going to grow and the cows were going to milk, and that we would be once again eating well. The idea of having a celebration that had connections that were deeper than, oh, we just want to have an event, that had some roots to it that go back through our culture, our connectedness. So the longest night of the year was a really obvious time to look at it. As well, it was a time when there weren't very many other festivals and events being held. Who's mad enough to have a festival in the middle of winter? The parade was first initiated in 1993-4 as a result of some of the artists and performers who live in the Northern Rivers area wanting to create a festival that was authentic and that had an arts and cultural basis towards it. The artists and performers wanted to have an event that reflected the nature of this area. The Northern Rivers has got an awful lot of artists and performers, and we wanted to have some form of outlet for that mass of creativity. It was also the idea of having an event that was a metaphor for bringing goodwill and optimism and light to the city, to the heart of the city, which at that time was quite depressed and not thriving particularly well. So we wanted to create something that brought some energy and life into the heart of the city. The very first Lantern Parade only had a few hundred people actually involved in it. We didn't have a permit to walk or any of those things, and now, as I said, we have round about 2,000 plus people in the parade. And those people who are involved in that are schools, and over the years nearly every single school in the district has participated, and some schools have made lanterns and walked in the parade every single year. Other times schools come and go. But round about 1,000 school children make lanterns for the Lantern Parade. And now their parents all join in as well, and they carry some of the big lanterns. Community groups, once again, when we first started, it was say, hey, come and join in the parade, and people were a little bit shy. But it was also fundamental to process, is to give the Lantern Parade as being an opportunity for people who don't necessarily become part of the limelight, with community groups and individuals who are not out there in the focus of society. Because also with Lighten Up we work a lot with people who are disadvantaged and who are perhaps on the outers. I was just told today a lovely story about a young person who's part of an integrated dance company called Sprung, and this young man was on an absolute high for a whole week afterwards, and it was all he could think about and talk about was being part of the Lantern Parade. And they walked in the parade, and they did a small performance piece in the finale as well. That's the sort of thing that keeps me going. Lighten Up is the organisation that manages, runs and produces the Lantern Parade and the finale, and produces the festival. Lighten Up's philosophy is to create a safe space for people to come and be creative and contribute to our community through artistic and creative activities and to be able to tell stories. So the Lantern Parade participants and the people who work in creating the lanterns, or carrying the lanterns, or performing, or all the various many ways in which one can be involved in this festival, come from disability groups. We have young people who've been involved in the juvenile justice system. We have the Indigenous community is involved. There is the blood bank was involved a couple of years ago. The SES has their own special lantern that they carry, as does the Westpac helicopter. So an enormous variety of groups of people who may not necessarily be seen as being performative or artistic or those sorts of things, but who can have an opportunity to walk in the parade. Bands as well. We have the fantastic Samba Blisters, who were celebrating their 10th anniversary of being on the Northern Rivers North Coast area this year in 2013. We also have the Lismore City Concert Band and the Casino Big Band, who've joined together to make a mass band. And we have a wonderful band of ladies from Brisbane who come down. The Redlands Ladies Drum Corps come down and walk in the parade and have fairy lights on their drums. And we have the Lismore City Pipe Band, who once again also decorate their bagpipes with fairy lights and things, and really get into the spirit of the event. You know, there's been all sorts of things that have grown up out of the Lantern Parade, which have got nothing to do with our organisation, but other people have just taken it upon themselves. And as I say, earlier on we used to be sort of inviting people to come and participate, and now, you know, people come and say, well, next year this is what we want to do in the parade, and you know, there's a real sense of ownership of the Lantern Parade. It's great. In the early days of the Lantern Parade, we used to start off in a car park down by the river, and it had always been part of our process was to have a focus on the river. And we would start down in the Canoe Club car park, and then walk around the block, and then go back to the Canoe Club car park. And I can remember one year that suddenly there were so many more people, and we had a little show at the end before we did a bonfire and some fireworks. And there were so many people, and they all wanted to see. There was no room for us to do our little show. And so I was standing there, because in those days we did, you know, everything. Say, move back, please. We have no room. I'm not going to start the show until you move back. It felt a little bit like that in Oaks Oval this year, when there were 8,000 or 9,000 people all crowding to see. The wet ones have been memorable. Again, in the early days, standing on the corner of the road, we postponed. In the early days it was possible to postpone, and we postponed about twice in 20 years, which is not bad. But standing on the corner of the road as people came along, and it's pouring and pouring and pouring with rain, and say, sorry, but the Lantern Parade has been postponed until next week. Can you come back then? And then other times when it's raining and the water's coming, and we've moved site and the water's coming up over my boots, and I've got one of those yellow rubber pants and yellow raincoat, and all of these tradies and electricians and people saying, well, Gilly, what are we going to do now? And realising that it was my responsibility is to say whether we went ahead. So I said, the show will go on. And the parade gathered, and there was about 10,000 people watching, and we had all the lanterns went out, and when the parade set off, the rain stopped, and the rain stayed away whilst we did the fiery finale and the bonfire and the fireworks, and as the last fireworks died down, so the rain came pouring down. That was 2009. And the amazing thing, the name of the show that year, the name of the Lantern Parade that year, was A Space for Optimism. And we absolutely needed optimism to do that one. So that one was fairly memorable. There are some people in our crew who won't speak of it, but it was pretty memorable. We seem to have full moons on a fairly regular basis. And just seeing this amazing full moon rising as the parade was walking down the road, that was pretty awesome. So I think one of the things that's special about the Lantern Parade is its simplicity in many ways. For a long time we only ever had the lanterns lit with candles, and then just to keep the insurance companies happy and for a few artistic reasons, we had the big feature lanterns started to be lit with 12-volt lights. But still all the little lanterns are lit with flames and candles, which is such a beautiful, beautiful light. And we worked very hard in lighting the big lanterns to keep that warmth and gentleness in the lighting. But the whole idea of the Lantern Parade, it's not very high tech, and we've flirted with a little bit of LEDs and lasers and stuff like that, but for the most part the Lantern Parade is very simple, and keeping that connection with the environment, keeping that connection with the elements and nature and the moon and the cycles of the season is still very much a part of how we develop and think about our lanterns and the whole event. And so when we remember the lanterns and the things, it's also absolutely inextricably joined that we remember the weather and the cycles of the moon, how it all comes together. The Lismore Lantern Parade, I guess, is recognised as an icon for the Northern Rivers region, particularly for the people of Lismore, but also for the people on the coast and further inland as well. So they're almost, but I hope not quite, ubiquitous, that there are many, many events and celebrations that happen in the area that have lanterns as a part of the ambience, as part of their feeling. I think there are many towns and communities beyond Lismore and the Northern Rivers that see what we have here and they want a bit of it. So we travel a lot and we go and do little rivers of light from Lismore out to communities all up and down the eastern seaboard with the lanterns. But for the people of Lismore, it's theirs, and there is a wonderful sense of ownership and connection. Not everybody, but nearly everybody has been to at least one Lantern Parade in their lives. And we now describe ourselves as being an intergenerational event, so that there are children who were babies in pushchairs in our first Lantern Parades who are now parents themselves, and their children are coming to the Lantern Parades, and their children are making lanterns to carry and walk in the Lantern Parade. And that's quite special, you know. That's apart from making one feel awfully old, it's wonderful to think that this is a true tradition. I feel very privileged to have been a part of that process. I'm not quite sure how it happens. I'm not quite sure what it is that creates that little bit of specialness that allows the Lantern Parade to be such a family-friendly event, that there's nobody drinking, there's no hooligans. The lanterns are remarkably well respected. I'm amazed by the fact that we can have lanterns standing out in the open and they're not damaged. And interestingly, and probably I shall be made a liar by saying this, but this building that we are in at the moment, all the industrial buildings around are tagged and graffitied, and this building is not. From all facets of the community, I think there is a connection and a love of the Lantern Parade. The people who work in Lighten Up, who work in the Lantern Shed, are a wonderful collection, a motley crew who come from so many different countries and nationalities and backgrounds. I think this year we have people from Sudan, from Italy, from Germany, from France, from South America, from the Himalayas, from South Africa, Indigenous Australians. We have Thailand, Vietnam. Some of the people who come and work here have never had any artistic training or background, but become incredibly good at the process. There are some people who are quite accomplished and well-known artists who come and work in here as well and create marvellous pieces. And there is never anything that is too grand or too menial for people to participate in, and everything that happens in here contributes to the whole. We have people who have got disabilities that are visible, and there are people who've got disabilities that are not visible, and they all have amazing abilities. I sometimes think of how Lighten Up and how the Lantern Parade preparations work is to be like creating a patchwork quilt. So that in the olden days when people were making a patchwork quilt, the community would come together and they would all sit in a circle and sew and make the pieces that made this one big quilt. And in the process of doing that, they communicated with each other, they shared stories, they helped each other, they were able to say, oh, I know how we can sort this thing out, or, you know, there was this community building, but they were all contributing to one outcome. And I see that the Lantern Parade is like that, you know, is that everybody is working together to have this outcome, which is this Lantern Parade. Most of the people in here are volunteers. For the most part, the whole event is based on volunteering and contributing.
I'm Yoko, and I've been with Lighten Up for about 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And I came over after I'd left Norpa doing volunteer work. I wanted to do something that was in the artistic line, and you know, this is a great place to achieve that. I am an artist, I'm a sculptor mainly, so I was looking to make lanterns as well as fix them and making, you know, doing workshops and other things, you know, that are needed around the place. But yeah, I particularly like making the lanterns. That is one of my favourite things. Yeah.
I'm Robin. I've been a volunteer here at Lighten Up for the last 4 years, and I've enjoyed it immensely.
Well, that's only one shape.
I find it a very friendly, very artistic place to work. It's sort of one of those places where you're appreciated, and the people here are all really great and supportive, and the work's good. It's really good to, you know, making lanterns and that, and sort of seeing your work once it's finished and the joy that it gives other people. It's, as I said, it's a great place to come, and Julie is very supportive of all of us, and I don't know where she gets all her energy, because she just keeps going and going and going. And the work that goes into a lot of the lanterns, and we do it all on a shoestring budget. It's sort of just amazing what we can actually put out.
Hello, my name is Fred Cole. I first became involved with the Lantern Parade as musical director in 1994, and from 2002 till 2011 I wrote a 25 to 35 minute piece and produced it on CD for the fiery finale of each event. I met Gilly in 1994. She came to me and put the concept of the solstice celebration, the Lantern Festival, to me, and I embraced it. And for the first few years I would just turn up with music that I'd created with the Lantern Festival concept in mind, and I would play the music while the lanterns paraded in and around the space near the river. Until in 2002 we decided to get a little bit more serious, and we scripted the event. Gilly would give me the script, I would create the music to the script, and then the script would become the driving force behind the actual drama.
I started my relationship with fire, you could say, when I was quite young. I was probably only about 14 the first time I got to spin fire. I was lucky enough to have a lady who was a friend of my mother's who had had circus training, and she taught it to me when I was about 14, and then I left it behind for many, many years and found it again at university, and I just realised the magic of being able to hold such an elemental energy, like to be able to control something that has such destructive power is really quite amazing. And in the Australian context as well, just the idea of fire is it's destructive, but it's also creative, it's transformative, it brings new life. So there's the elemental aspect of it, but then there's also the ritual aspect of it, and that fire is and has been for so long part of our human ritual experience. And that's always the way that we have thought about using it in the Lantern Parade. We have a big bonfire and we encourage people to write down their wishes and put them into the fire, and it's a ritual moment. It's a moment of, you know, taking in what's happened for you for that year, or putting out what your hopes and your dreams are for the future. And then you write it all down and you create it, and then you put it into the fire. And the act of putting it into the fire is an act of transformation and release and sending it up to the spirit world, you know. So turning those ideas into something a little bit that it changes it. So there's that aspect of it as well. And then when I would think about the pictures that I would make out of fire, and just because of the essence of what the Lantern Parade has always been about, and the essence of that solstice energy, and we're always quite tied into nature and to those ideas. So in developing the images, there have always been images that have quite strong archetypal resonance. They were images that I would hope that by the image in fire, it also talks to the human psyche and to a little bit of a deeper place. And then I started to work alongside Jilly on the finale show, and that was what really started to drive me. And I had so much joy in helping to bring such an amazing experience to the people of Lismore, and they just loved it. They gave back so much, and I got to have really fantastic experiences with the community members that would come and be a part of the show. I got to share my love of fire with the people that chose to come and participate in the show, and it's been a truly fantastic journey. We don't often get that in our society. We don't often get this experience of moments out of time. It's times that you don't actually get in your everyday life, and that's it was a real pleasure and joy for me to be able to share that with other people and to create an experience that all of these families and kids and members of the community, they'd all get to come and be a part of something that just was out of the ordinary on a special night of the year. So I feel real pride in the Lantern Parade and in the finale, and in the fact that we're lucky enough to have such an experience here in our town. People need to come together in those ways and to have those experiences of celebration, because without experiences of celebration you can get kind of lost in the mundane everydayness, and I think that a lot of people aren't lucky enough to have those in their lives. Sometimes I think about the many, many, many thousands of pyramid lanterns out there in the world in people's houses, and I think that, you know, we've had a chance to spread little parcels of light into all those people's homes.
Lismore loves its Lantern Parade. What more can I say? It's one of the best known events in regional Australia, and the fact that it brings people together of all ages, all cultures, everyone comes together and loves the Lantern Parade. And of course it's more than just the parade that sees hundreds of people carrying lanterns of all sorts of sizes through our streets, but it's a festival that goes over many days with things like markets and lantern making workshops, music events. Our charities get involved and raise money, so it's very inclusive, and everyone loves it. And if there's a child in this region that has not been to the Lantern Parade, a child of any age, then they're really missing out. It's just one of those eye-opening experiences that everyone loves and gets a warm feeling in their heart about.
Well, next year, 2014, is our 20th anniversary. We have got plans started for doing that. It was going to be a nice milestone in our story, but now it is going to be perhaps another bigger milestone, because we have just been given notice to leave the building in which we have lived and worked for the last 12 years, and we have no idea where we're going to go from here. So not only are we going to celebrate our 20th anniversary, but we are also going to be celebrating a new home and possibly a new direction in what we do. It's exciting and it's quite scary, but it will be wonderful. I think one of the important things about Lighten Up and the Lantern Parade, it's not your normal sort of organisation. And what's really fundamental to how we work is an awful lot of love. And I think that comes through. There's grumpinesses at moments and people get tired and things, but underlying all of that, there is this sense of caring and sense of love. And I think that's really, really important. And I hope that for the most part that comes out in the events that we do and the lanterns that we do. Because the people who work in here, particularly those who work here long term, are a wonderful bunch of people. They are so precious. Yeah, there is such a lot of warmth and love, and it keeps us going.